This is the quarterly national meeting of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. This is how we regulate insurance on a national basis, by meeting quarterly for lengthy weekends from Friday to Tuesday in an environment like the Hilton here in New Orleans, and frankly all-day meetings from early in the morning till late in the evening. And we adopt model rules, model laws, model policy forms, et cetera, and distribute them throughout the states and try to regulate on a uniform basis across state lines. Insurance has always been regulated at the state level by federal law, and coordinating that can be a challenge. There are different policies in place in different states, and so to the extent that we can become more uniform, we better serve consumers of insurance products.
It is now my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce to you our spring national meeting host, none other than Louisiana Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelan. It is my pleasure to ask him to say a few words.
On behalf of my colleagues at the Louisiana Department of Insurance and myself, I am pleased to welcome my fellow commissioners, their staff, and our guests to my hometown of New Orleans for the 2012 spring meeting of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. The last time New Orleans was host to the NAIC was in December of 2004, and our fall national meeting was scheduled to be held here in September of 2005, but that meeting was altogether canceled because of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. I'm thrilled to have you all here in this historic city and have the opportunity to show you the great hospitality for which we are truly world famous. My other purpose today is more serious, and that is to express the appreciation of the people of Louisiana for the overwhelming outpouring of support we received in the aftermath of the worst catastrophic event to visit the United States in our history. Any discussion of Katrina and Rita must begin with the recognition of the fact that 1,600 of our citizens lost their lives in that horrific event, and hundreds more perished in our neighboring state of Mississippi as a result of Katrina. On a property damage basis, Katrina and Rita, 3 weeks later, resulted in over 1 million claims being filed and over $40 billion being paid to Louisiana policyholders as a result of insured losses. The majority of the departments of insurance throughout America offered their assistance and actually sent staff to Baton Rouge to man our helplines and the satellite locations we set up in the hardest hit areas of our state. The industry also responded in a similar fashion, setting up claims adjusting centers and shopping center parking lots all over South Louisiana, coastal Mississippi, and into Alabama. We were also the beneficiaries of National Guard troops from most of the states in America coming and spending weeks in our state helping with the delivery of food and other relief supplies, as well as protecting the property of the hundreds of thousands of our citizens who had to evacuate their homes. I personally witnessed on I-10 in my daily commute between here and Baton Rouge and blew my horn and waved in appreciation to convoys heading back to their home states for weeks after the hurricanes, with Mardi Gras beads draped over the hood ornaments and the side windows of their Jeeps and other equipment. In addition to that immediate assistance that you were so gracious in providing, your taxpayers were also typical of Americans with their generous outpouring of assistance to the victims of those events to help recover this great city that was located here 300 years ago for very legitimate and still today essential reasons. Finally, I'd be remiss if I did not express my appreciation to your citizens back home as well, spread out all across our great land. Under the leadership of former Presidents Clinton and Bush, huge sums of money were donated to a charitable foundation they co-chaired that resulted in an absolute avalanche of donations from throughout the United States and almost every foreign nation as well. Additionally, over 2 million volunteers have come to our area to help in the gutting, repairing, and putting back together of the homes that were destroyed but did not have insurance in place to help the owners in their return to their hometown. Our recovery has truly been phenomenal, and you will see some of that as you visit this weekend. In particular, as we commissioners stop tomorrow night at the Presbytere to view the very poignant Katrina exhibit my wife and I had the pleasure of seeing last week in anticipation of our visit. And we'll do that on our way to our commissioners' dinner just a few blocks from here on Sunday evening. I'd urge all to please make every effort to join us in visiting that exhibit and take in the historic building in which it's housed as that complex in Jackson Square, which was the center of the city when it was founded. The Presbytere is the twin building to the Cabildo on the other side of the cathedral and is the site of the signing of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. In closing, I once again want to say how pleased I am to have this opportunity for you to come to my hometown and how proud I am of our recovery from the events of 2005. But even more than proud, I am forever grateful to my fellow regulators and the people of this great country for the outpouring of support we experienced in the aftermath of those events. Please have a great meeting here in New Orleans, but keep in mind to laissez bon temps rouler. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Donelan. It is very encouraging to see how far this city has come in a very short period of time since the devastation that we witnessed. I know there's still a lot of work to be done, but I'd like to join you in commending those who have been instrumental in providing the vital resources for the reconstruction of this very historic city. Many of you asked what could be done in the days following the floods, and together the State Departments of Insurance, the NAIC assisted evacuees and policyholders. This was truly a national effort through the NAIC. The claims process started early, and the building continues today, thanks to the efforts of many people in this room, and the people in the departments across this country that contributed mightily to the rebuilding of this great land. Not only did New Orleans recover and rebuild, but today it is reborn. In 2005, state regulators, working collaboratively through the NAIC, established a national call center to assist all the victims. We also dispatched employees to assist on the front lines of recovery in the Gulf, from everything from issuing diapers to water to toothpaste and toothbrushes. Everyone in this room who participated in the recovery efforts feel a special connection to this magical city. A city famous for its cuisine, famous for its music and its Mardi Gras, will also forever be known as the city of resilience, following one of the greatest natural disasters in America's history. Working together, we demonstrated the benefits and the strengths of our national system of state-based regulation. And I will boldly say the future of state-based regulation and the NAIC looks even better today, largely due to the enormous talents and commitments shown by the 2012 NAIC leadership and its membership. To further enhance our leadership effort over this years, we are asking the standing committee chairs to play a stronger role. Specifically, we are placing greater responsibility on our committee chairs to achieve their committee's highest priority charges. In February, we met to establish our goals for the years and set those priorities for the committee. There is not enough time to cover those goals, but I'd like to share with you at least some of the work our committees are looking forward to this year. The A Committee is tackling the goal of finalizing the bifurcated approach to handling the interpretation of the issues surrounding the all-too-well-known AG 38. The B Committee's exchange subgroup will continue to review federal regulations and craft comments, provide input to HHS as regulations are continued to be developed, assist states that choose to develop their own exchange or partner with federal exchange, and draft model regulation based on the final regulations by HHS. Work is underway in the C Committee to develop a national flood insurance handbook for insurance regulators. This resource is expected to serve as a guide to help regulators better understand the federal flood program, the role of write-your-own insurers, the coverage nuances, the prices, the programs, and the limits. And if you live in an area like Jim and I do, you want your constituents to understand the benefits of the federal flood program. The Market Conduct Annual Statement, or MCAS, will continue to be a D Committee priority. This year, 2 policy issues will be reviewed: the use of MCAS data for national analysis and interstate collaboration, and what, if any, MCAS data should be shared with the public. The E Committee is developing a model act that will enable implementation of ORSA, a reporting by insurance groups. Both the E and F committees are working to assist states with amending the credit for reinsurance laws and to make decisions on whether reduced collateral requirements are acceptable for accredited jurisdictions. Finally, the G Committee, the International Committee, plans to elevate engagement in public dialogue with industry and consumer representatives about international insurance issues. As I mentioned before, these are just a few of the priorities established by our committees. Since we met in the fall, members have been advancing our work on a number of fronts, from working with our federal counterparts in Washington, D.C. on implementation of Dodd-Frank and health reform implementation, to traveling overseas recently, including the work here in the United States, to advance our international regulatory dialogue. One of the largest projects this coming year will be the full assessment of our accreditation program. Ensuring we keep up with the dynamic nature of the industry from a regulatory standpoint is critically important and goes to the heart of what we do as regulators. If enhancements need to be made, those changes must be our top priority. A founding principle of the NAIC is our cooperative regulation of multi-state insurers. Strong oversight and collaboration among state insurance regulators benefits consumers, but also benefits insurers. Over the last year, the NAIC members have successfully managed examinations of many of our regulated entities. One such effort in life and annuity company practices regarding the settlement of claims and the use of the Social Security Death Master. After identifying a national trend involving claim settlement practices of America's largest insurers, regulators began coordinated examinations. Just a few short weeks ago, we announced the first multi-state settlement agreement under which one of those examinations with Prudential, led by Florida, California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and North Dakota, a settlement was negotiated to the benefit of consumers in 20 participating states. This settlement represents a sea change in existing business practices that will protect our consumers for many years to come. It is a shining example of the benefit of coordinating our regulatory efforts and our examinations. It's exactly the kind of success story that proves what can be accomplished when we work together. That is why it is important that we continue to build our relationship with our new friends at FIO. We have a great relationship with our former colleague, Director Michael McGrath, and once we've established processes and procedures that allow us to better integrate the role of FIO with the NAIC and with the state regulators, we'll be in a better position moving our nation forward. One asset the FIO offers in its role as a conduit for regulators in negotiating international agreements. FIO is not a regulator. We are, which is important as our work continues to become increasingly multinational. For example, we are working on strengthening the supervision of internationally active groups, or IAIGs. We are also engaged in International Association of Insurance Supervisors, the IAIS, on the implementation of insurance core principles, as well as strengthening our professional secrecy and data sharing agreements. In the United States and around the world, we continue to make strides to enhance group supervision. Overseas are monitoring the activities of internationally active groups, as well as the proposed development of global capital standards for insurance regulation. The NAIC is co-vice chair of the NAIC Supervisory Forum, which will bring together the experience and expertise of senior-level supervisors from around the globe and contribute to the development of a common assessment framework. In this leadership role, our goal is to strengthen insurance supervision and promote regulatory convergence based on our real-world experience. Here in the United States, we must continue to concentrate our efforts using the tools such as supervisory colleges and the International Forum. While more supervisory colleges are being conducted by state insurance regulators, this is an area we can and should continue to concentrate our efforts. We also need to continue to implement recently amended changes to the Holding Company Act and the revised at the end of 2010. Once implemented, these changes will give us the information we need to determine the enterprise risk within a holding company system and its subsequent impact on the insurance group. Another effort to enhance group supervision involves the component of solvency modernization, our own risk solvency assessment, or ORSA. While we have another initiative underway to enhance market regulation, the organization has an ongoing commitment to evaluate and enhance the way states regulate, and we are wrapping up a national survey that will best identify potential to simplify and eliminate unnecessary regulation. Another study we are expecting to complete this year, or at least we anticipate Susan Voss will complete this year, is our principle-based reserving. This has been a long time in coming. This will allow us to better evaluate the changes in reserves under PBR as compared to a formalistic approach we currently use today. We are already in the process of trying to further streamline producer licensing and are evaluating federal regulation and changes in law to establish a national clearinghouse. BR's is a ground-up system where we endorse federal legislation that makes sense and won't abdicate any regulatory authority that does not protect our consumers. It is not enough for us to hold meetings and to analyze issues and problems. The resolve of our leadership team and governing board is to set concrete deliverable goals to ensure that the NAIC continues to be the standard setter for the United States and to reform the model around the world. We are uniquely qualified to promote standards for global standard setting and benefit our consumers and promotes a stable environment. And that brings us back to where we are this weekend on the Bayou. While there's no Miami Beach to give many of our northern colleagues a break from the chill, it is nice and warm here, and there's plenty to do. Jambalaya, etouffee, chicory coffee, and as our governor of the state of Florida likes to say, let's get to work. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow we're going to have Senator Vitter join us to address our Government Relations Leadership Council, which is the committee of this body that monitors congressional legislative activity. And what he's going to be addressing is his efforts to get a 5-year reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, which is vital to our state and probably a dozen other net consumers of that federal program. And some states that are net payers, like Florida, are very big supporters and recognize the need for their property owners to have access to flood insurance in order to keep their economy going and keep real estate transferring, as lenders often require flood insurance as a condition of making a mortgage. But we're also addressing PPACA, otherwise known as Obamacare, and the issues that it presents for health insurance consumers and companies doing business in the 50 states. Auto insurance, we're looking at the affordability of auto insurance, in particular in urban areas. All the plethora of insurance issues are being discussed by various committees throughout this meeting over a 4-day period of time.
You mentioned flood insurance. What's the situation in Louisiana with flood insurance?
Well, flood insurance is vital in Louisiana. Only about 30% of our property is insured for flood. I tell folks from Shreveport to Grand Isle, every property should be insured for flood. And just 2.5 years ago, when Gustav came to our state and did a lot of damage in the Houma area, the Baton Rouge area, and surrounding areas, but brought with it 2 days of 10-inch plus rainstorms that flooded hundreds of homes in the Alexandria area in central Louisiana and the Monroe area in northeast Louisiana. So we are vulnerable to not just rain associated with a hurricane, but flash floods that we see coming to us from the west, from the plains in Texas and into the Shreveport, Lake Charles areas. And then in the spring, we're subject to overtopping of the Atchafalaya, the Mississippi, as we saw threaten us last year, and necessitating the opening of our spillway relief system in order to prevent extensive flooding, even in places as populated as Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So flood insurance is essential to our state and its economy.
The recent rash of tornadoes, what does that show in terms of people being prepared in Louisiana?
Well, we've been fairly blessed in that regard, thankfully, in that we have not had the devastation that places like Joplin, Missouri, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and other areas of the Midwest and the South have been devastated by. However, we can be on a moment's notice tomorrow, but it could be us, just as yesterday it was Missouri and the surrounding Illinois and Oklahoma and Kansas that were victimized. So people need to be aware of that danger. First and foremost, protect themselves and their loved ones, and secondly, find a safe place to protect themselves and also to protect their valuables, starting with their insurance policies and other valuables, documents that would be needed in the event of the visit of a tornado of the size that we've been seeing in recent times. It's a frightening experience, not as widespread as hurricanes or even hailstorms in doing damage, insured property damage. But people need to be prepared and vigilant. If they have any questions about any of those issues, they should contact us at the Department of Insurance. We have an 800 number that we man every day of the week, 1-800-259-5300, and we'd be happy to hear from any consumers with concerns about insurance questions or coverage issues or how to access insurance coverage, primarily through agents, although sometimes via direct writers.
The major issues that we're looking at are on the catastrophic side of the National Flood Insurance Program and its renewal being more than 60 days at a time. That applies not just to Mississippi, to just about every state in the Union, at least the 48 low states, and Alaska and Hawaii have their issues also. The other issues are with us as state regulators involve where the Federal Insurance Office will end up managing some of the areas that we now manage on the state-based level and how we can work together on international issues. We have great strides being made in the way that we handle catastrophic events, which will address some of the issues for the coastal states, specifically from Maine all the way to Mexico. So we've got our work cut out for us. We have consumer divisions that are operating to try to address the needs of consumers, to clarify what type of policies they have, what is and is not included in their policies, and how they can better understand the policy when they're issued by the various companies.
As I said, for tornadoes, we need first and foremost to heed the warnings of our public officials and get out of harm's way when urged to do so, when evacuations are ordered or requested. Number two, be prepared, know what your coverages are, have your policies available, and be equipped to control the damage to your property and then access claims handling assistance in the aftermath of damage from a hurricane event. We have been phenomenally blessed in our recovery from Katrina, and that's what I told the meeting here today, that we owe a lot of gratitude to a lot of folks all across America and beyond who were so helpful to us in the aftermath of what was the worst catastrophic event in the history of our country. And here, 6 years later, our recovery is absolutely impressive, and we are very grateful for the help that we received from all quarters of our great country and even beyond our borders.
Having a national convention in New Orleans is bringing an economic impact.
It is. We have 2,000 attendees at this meeting, which means millions of dollars of spending in our economy. Probably even more important than that is the opportunity to tell the Louisiana recovery story to movers and shakers in the insurance industry, which is vital to our state, and let them come and see for themselves the success we have had, beginning with the improvement of our levee system that has seen $15 billion of federal dollars spent to improve it. That compares with 50 to 70 million a year that was being spent pre-Katrina on the entire system in the metropolitan New Orleans area. So what happened to us in 2005 won't happen again. That's not to say we're impervious to any event, but the event that devastated us in 2005, we could manage much more efficiently today than we did back then. And there are many other indications of the success we've had in our recovery from those events 6 years ago.